The Crossbow Master Tier 5 Dart Monkey just got a rework and it's actually kind of weird. So the Tier 5 Crossbow Monkey is one of the, I would say, more beloved Tier 5s among the community just because of how easy it is to get into the tower. It's a super cheap one, the save is really nice. I call this rework weird because all of these number shuffles, they don't exactly do damage to the tower, and if anything, they might even just make it straight up worse. So let's see how we do versus round 15. I'm gonna get Geraldo here on the side. I don't exactly think that we're gonna be using Geraldo that much. I just want to have the hero deployed just in case. But because I went from the top crossbow, the consistency on this thing is just, you guys can see how bad it is already. Yes, so we took down round 15, and let me just get the 203, the razor sharp shots, which is not the crossbow that you usually go for, but this is here in the name of science and just testing out this new Crossbow Master. Okay, so what are these new changes that we're talking about? Okay, so first off, let's start with the attack damage getting increased. So the base attack on the Crossbow Master got increased from 6 to 8, which is really nice. But at the same time, the attack cooldown got increased from 0.16 to 0.24 seconds. So it does more damage, but is a little bit less consistent. And before I continue with the balance changes, just look at how sad this tower is. Just because it doesn't have attack speed, it's a handful of yellows and pinks, and I actually lost in this round once. It just doesn't deal with these faster balloons because of the lack of the attack speed. Now, one of the buffs that actually happened is the crit damage getting increased from 50 to 80. So every 5th shot onto the Crossbow Master is a crit. So yeah, the crits are going to be doing a lot more damage, which is really nice. Now, the main reason why I went from the top crossbow is because the entire top crossbow with the Crossbow Master got its pierce increased eventually on the 205 from 21 to 24. So I do want to be testing this out, but again, we are going to be losing a lot of consistency onto this tower. Now, why did I say that this tower's rework is a little bit weird? Well, I mentioned that the Crossbow Master crits every 5th attack, so it's 4 normal attacks and then the 5th one is a crit, and that essentially averaged out to about 92.5 damage per second. Now, the new one, which attacks a little bit slower but does a lot more damage, averages at 93.3 DPS. So absolutely, you know, a minuscule difference. This is absolutely not going to be felt by anyone in any of their games. And if anything, these non-crit attacks, which is 80% of the other attacks, are actually weaker because their DPS used to be 37.5. So the non-crit attacks now have a DPS of 33.3, so about 10% weaker. So what this means is that the tower is now reliant a little bit more onto just doing these crits because the crits do a lot more damage. So if you want to get those extra crits, you need to go for the middle crossbow, and of course we're going for the top crossbow because, well, this thing got changed. So let's just test it out. And honestly, while playing this run, I'm just going to try and save up as much money as possible because this run is going to need saving eventually later down the line. So let me get the Alchemist as a 420, just get a little bit of extra attack speed going. I want to get this thing the jungle jumps as well. And I don't think there haven't been any changes to the sharpshooter, so I think that this is about the same tower, and yeah, this is probably where the pierce actually comes handy. Now, sharpshooter does crit every 10th shot, and versus these 45 ceramics, I'm gonna need it to not miss its shots. That's what I'm gonna need. We're gonna have normal ceramics as well, so let's please not miss it. There we go. That was a nice crit. It got 3 ceramics at once. Yes, very good. And now the ultimate challenge. We dealt with the ceramics, and now here comes the real trouble. Fast balloons. Just that's about it. It doesn't have attack speed, so is it gonna be able to hold on versus these fast balloons? It is. It's just pinks. It's normal pinks, I think. Let me just give it the primary training for a little bit of extra range and just +1 pierce, I guess. Alright, so this round is gonna be a true test for it because we have a bunch of rainbows, we're gonna have a bunch of ceramics, and then afterwards we're gonna have some regrow rainbows. So we are gonna need this. So the pierce is gonna be nice in dealing with all these leftovers because, as you guys can see, it doesn't fully pop the ceramics. It leaves them to reds or blues depending on whether or not it has the alg buff on it, and it seems to be dealing with them. It's just that with the, I think the 024 would have dealt with them anyways. It's just that the consistency would have been a little bit better on the 024, I feel like. But yeah, this is so far so good. I mean, we're still dealing with the balloons. That's the most important thing, right? And actually, a really nice thing about the crits is that this tower doesn't exactly deal that well with Moab class balloons. So each time it crits, it actually does like a huge burst of damage to the Moab class balloons. So, oh, look at that. That was a nice crit actually in all these ceramics. That was a good one, but I think it's leaking this one, guys. I need to buy the Crossbow Master right now. Let me just buy it and let's just see this new one. So the attack speed is still pretty fast, to be honest. It's 0.24 seconds on the base one, but we are improving the base attack time with an Alchemist and with the Jungle Drums Village. Let's see how we do versus 57. So I don't think that we're going to be having any, you know, or at least not any, but not as much trouble, you know, during these 50s. I think maybe the first real trouble is going to be happening on 62 and then around 63 with all those ceramics. So I'm really curious how the extra pierce that I got through the razor sharp shots is going to do versus the ceramic waves and just the extra damage. So it leaves them to rainbows. Okay, that's really interesting. Actually, you know what? This is a huge asset to be able to two-shot ceramic balloons and just ceramic waves, especially when it's getting buffed by a stronger sim Alchemist, because it doesn't go into, yeah, look at this thing, they just disappear in a second. It doesn't spread into these small like blues or greens or yellows or whatever whatever it is, and it doesn't get its pierce overloaded. So actually a good thing about this change, I would say, is the fact that it is just able to deal with all these normal ceramics, at least not the 4-year ones, but the normal ones, is just dealing with them in 2 shots. So that's really nice. Yes, absolutely. An underappreciated aspect, at least for me, is the fact that I did not realize how powerful this a little bit of extra damage is going to be in just dealing with ceramic balloons, because previously it would have left all of these ceramics into small balloons, I think, and now it's just 2-shotting them. So it's either a rainbow or the ceramic layer doesn't get fully popped, but then it gets kind of swept up by another projectile. Doesn't exactly do the same thing versus these 45 ones, so as you guys can see, it leaves them to reds, but if you go for the extra pierce crosspad, then yeah, it does deal with the entire wave. So you guys see that that's like what, like 15 or something like that reds behind each other. So yeah, you need pierce for that. And then a bunch of BFBs behind each other around 77, which are gonna disappear pretty fast. So I have a feeling these numbers that Ninja Q put out, like increasing the damage a little bit and everything, I think that these numbers were actually pretty well thought out. So look at what's gonna be happening on the wave of ceramics to 78. Like, this is not even funny how good it is now versus it. Look at this extra pierce going down. Alright, so we enter free play mode. This is round 82, and this is where the troubles are gonna start for this tower, because these balloons are just gonna be getting beefier and beefier. The ceramics are a lot stronger as well, and I think this is where the lack of attack speed might cost us a little bit of consistency versus the small balloons. So here's what I want to do. I want to keep these balloons onto these straight lines because I do want to help this tower out a little bit. So let's go like this. This is gonna be, by the way, a call to arms village. So let me get the call to arms ability just to like have it on, and then I'm gonna go for a relentless glue, which is gonna go like this and this. And so what I'm trying to do with this relentless glue is I'm trying to keep these balloons into this straight line so that we can fully use the crosspad that we went for. And actually, I may be even thinking of getting something like a couple of boomerangs just to be pushing and keeping all these balloons in place. But let's just watch what's going to be happening with all these mobs incoming on 83. So hopefully a bunch of them get, yes, actually, so they're all getting stunned. We have a lot of ceramics is left over. This is where the pierce is actually doing a lot of the work, and all these guys are getting kept in place. Yes, I love this thing. This is really good. Okay, so I don't know, guys. I did like this is gonna be happening with the mill crosspad as well, so I'm not exactly too surprised, but it is nice that we have this sort of damage. Let's see this mini upgraded version, I would say, of round 83. So 83 was a bunch of ceramics and mobs, and this one is mobs and BFB. So a lot more balloons on the screen at the same time. We're gonna need those crits to get going because they do actually do a decent amount of damage versus the mob class balloons. And actually, we are dealing with all these balloons. That's really nice. We might even want to get something like an overclock, honestly, just to get the attack speed going and crit a lot more. Just to be fair, this is the perfect map for this tower. So yeah, if you're not playing on a map which has all these straight lines, the results are absolutely not going to be the same. So you kind of want to be adapting, you know, your towers with the map. 89, a bunch of 45 balloons, and we're gonna have some 45 BFBs behind these 45 mobs. So we're dealing with the mobs. So far so good. The relentless glue is doing a decent amount of the work, just keeping all of these guys in place. And then let me not overclock it. Let's not touch any of these abilities. Let's see if it's gonna be able to deal with it by itself. I think it is, just because every 5th attack is a crit, and once it crits, it seems to be dealing with a huge chunk of these mob class balloons anyways. So it's 80 damage per crit, but that 80 damage actually happens pretty often, so it is able in a way to deal with these mob class balloons. Yeah, there we go. That was round 89, and we're gonna have the DTs now. Admittedly, versus the DTs, I don't think that this thing is gonna do too well. We do have the relentless glue. They're gonna get some slow on them, but I do think that we're gonna need some extra support for rounds like 95, for example. You guys see these bolts, by the way, flying behind the ceramics? That means that the pierce is still not getting fully used. There's actually less than 24 balloons. Actually, it's more than 24 the pierce that we have, because we're giving it extra from the primary training at the alchemist. And finally, it is getting overloaded a little bit. So yeah, we see these ceramics going onto the straight line, and there's a bunch of BFBs and mobs coming out onto this down portion of the track. So it is gonna deal with them, but yeah, it's finally starting to get overloaded. So it might be time for us to start thinking about, you know, just helping it out with abilities, or maybe getting some other towers as well, I think. Let's watch these 45 mobs. It's gonna be a bunch of 45 mobs and ZOMGs behind them, and yes, the 45 balloons should be starting to become a problem for this guy. Yeah, there we go. I mean, honestly, it might leak, but it's round 90. Oh, it's getting close. It's still not leaking, by the way, but it's round 92, and you know what? For a tower that costs like $30,000 in total, I am absolutely satisfied as to how far it made it. But I mentioned at the start that this round is gonna need some saving, and this is why we needed to get some cash. So first off, overclock. A pretty standard tower. You would probably have an overclock anyway, so let's get the overclock and let's see how much of a difference it makes. And I think it's making all the difference in the world, actually. Look at this thing. These guys are not even making it past the first bend. Okay, so starting from this round, every round is gonna be some sort of a test for our Crossbow Master. It's gonna be either beefy rounds or DDTs. So let's see how we do on to 94. This one has no 45 balloons at all, and I haven't overclocked the Crossbow Master, but it seems to be dealing with these small balloons. But I think it's time, guys. Let me overclock overclock it, yeah, you guys can see some leftovers. That's gonna be 2 ZOMGs left. The call to arms is gonna expire in a second. And are we dealing with these guys? The Crossbow Master seems to be struggling a little bit, I'm gonna be honest. So I was thinking of doing, you know, one of these towers that might create more chaos than be helpful, and that tower is the Unstable Concoction Alchemist. So let's actually put this extra pierce to the test with the tower, but first off, let's wait and see what happens on 95. We do have the money for the homeland, which I'm not gonna be buying actually. Let's just chill. Let's get the overclock going because we know for a fact that these guys are gonna leak. We saw the fortified Moabs leak on round 92, so we know that the Moabs are gonna leak by themselves, and in combination with the deities, that's like a sure loss. So it seems like the overclock is probably not gonna be enough. Am I correct about that thing? Yeah, I think that this thing is leaking actually, even with the overclock. Is it? I mean, it's super close, and these crits and the extra pierce. This is the extra pierce saving the run right here. This is the, look at the pierce go. Okay, I'm actually gonna use the call to arms and the overclock just so we deal with this round, and after we're done with it, I'm gonna boot up Sandbox, and I'm gonna try the exact same thing just with the 025. So let's just see if we can, yeah, we're definitely dealing with this round. Yeah, so I'm gonna hit pause after this, and let me just see if the 025 is actually dealing with 95. Okay, so this is Sandbox, and this is the exact same round, only with a 025 instead. So I bought all these towers with the exception of Geraldo and the Dark Monkey, but we're not gonna be using them anyways, and I do have the overclock, which we did actually use onto the 205. So let's see how good, and does it make any difference that we have. Let me just overclock it, and let's see how much of a difference it makes versus around like 95 to have the extra attack speed. So yeah, this thing's consistency is a little bit better. So yeah, this is where we start needing the pierce, because the pierce is getting overloaded a little bit. There are a little bit of leaks. We are kind of getting those leaks, but no, this is, I mean, it's still kind of trying to save the run, and it seems to be working actually. So the pierce is going through on this round as well. And oh my god, wait, did anything leak actually? I think it, yeah, so we do have a couple of balloons leaking. So yeah, this would have leaked as well, but I think that this was a little bit more consistent than the 205, right? Okay, so back to our 205 run. Yeah, the 025 is a little bit more consistent, definitely. You can see it in just the amount of balloons that you have on the other side. It's less balloons, and then the balloons that are on the other side are just a lesser class of balloons. Like, I'm talking about just small balloons, and there's not as many deities and Moabs on the other side. So I think that it still holds true that the 025 is the better crosspath, but this one, it's a lot of fun, guys. It's a lot of fun just trying out this new one. So let me get the homeland defense, because it seems like we are gonna need a lot of extra damage versus these beefy rounds. Let's use both the homeland and the overclock just to get rid of these 45 ZOMGs. We know that this is not exactly a ZOMG pop or anything like that, but I just want to get to round 98 as soon as possible. So there we go. And now if we need to refresh the abilities, we do have the rejuve potion, so we actually have 100% ability uptime. It's just whether or not this thing is gonna have the damage anyway. So let's just use all of the abilities right now. It's attacking super fast. It is going to town onto these balloons, and yes, it seems to be, I mean, it's gonna get a little bit messy when all of these ZOMGs and the BFBs and their leftovers kind of, you know, crunch themselves into one single spot, and the abilities are gonna run out in a second. So let me use the rejuve potion and just make sure that we have the abilities ready. And look at this thing, as soon as the abilities start running out, this tower is just starting to get overwhelmed from all sides. So let me go like this. Let's overclock it, and let's see if we can save the homeland for the next round. Oh no, I see some 45s actually at the back. Oh my god, all these guys are 45. What, do we need to use the homeland? I'm gonna try and save it. Is this, I'm gonna need the crits to go down? No. Okay, round 2, but I'm just gonna rejuve, and I'm gonna use both abilities again. So let's keep this thing overclocked and under the effects of the homeland, and this is not even close. This is how strong, by the way, a homeland village is. Yeah, it just makes your towers go ham. So let's see if we're gonna get some uptime for the 45 deities. It is overclocked, but the homeland is out. And look at this, guys. As soon as, you know, these faster and a little bit beefier balloons come out like 45 deities, it just straight up leaks. All right, so let's rejuve one more time, and let's use the homeland again, and this should be enough for these 45 deities, although they are kind of making it a little bit further. They're gonna make it all the way around. That's not good, but we did deal with them. And now the last one is just gonna be the bad balloon, which I know for a fact that for this one we do need the melee crossbow just with the extra attack speed. So let's actually go like this. Let's do something like an umbrella attack just like for the +1 damage. Let's homeland, let's overclock this thing, and let's see if we're gonna have enough damage to pop the bad balloon on time. Oops, we can even go for something like this, like the glue strike actually. So let me do this. Let's buy one more ice here at the top. Just go like this, and then we can use a rejuve potion. Guys, this bad balloon is not looking like it's gonna pop. This is not looking good. I mean, I'm using both of the abilities, and even if we pop it, like, it's gonna be like ZOMGs and deities inside. So yeah, this thing is, yeah, it's gonna lose to deities. All right, so as expected, it absolutely sucks versus bad balloons. So let's just use these spike storm abilities, and then let's just, you know what, can I buy the spike storm from the second one? Yeah, I did. Okay, so let's homeland. Let's use both of those spike storms. Let's overclock this thing and let's get this thing over with. So are the DDs are gonna pop. These ZRGs are a little bit beefy, but it's only 2 of them, and I think is it gonna handle them? Okay, let me just rejuve just in case. Let's overclock a lot of balloons on the other side. Let me homeland, and yes, there we go. We get it done. Right, so 205, interesting crosspath. The Pierce was fun, and actually round 95 was the most fun, but you know what? The 025 is still probably the best crosspath, but this was a fun one to test out, and yeah, this whole rework is kind of weird. So that's gonna be it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'm gonna see you all in the next one.